How many copies of you do you think
Well, I think I'm the most imitated person on the internet who is
they
like
created
a proper rock star.
They created a gremlin in water monster with you. How many really?
Yeah, don't feed him after midnight. I don't know, but if you look, Nero, like the Emperor, who was awesome, except for the Christian burning. Everything else, he was great.
Perfect.
Nobody's perfect. Well, it was good. You know, he was. I mean, he was an egotist. Fine, I'll take that. You know, he was self-involved. Was fine. He spent too much money on himself. You know, he raised half of Rome and built himself a gigantic palace called the Domus Aurea. Yeah. And when he finally moved into the palace, I think it was from Suetonius. I think he said, "Finally, I can start to live as a human being." You know, he was hated by the elites. The Senate hated him, but loved by the people. So he was probably the best emperor.
You all know Milo Yiannopoulos. You either love him or you hate him. If you hate him, I feel kind of sorry for you, because he is so much fun. But beyond the fun, he represents some serious ideas, and it's on that side of him that this video is going to focus. Milo is one of the main figures in this new counterculture that emerged out of the internet in the past couple of years, a counterculture that brings together people from the left and the right, who have had enough of the authoritarianism of the religious right and the regressive left. Milo comes from the right side of the political map, defined himself as a conservative, but finds common grounds with those liberals on the left who are standing up to the regressives. That does not stop him from making fun of the leftist views, and like other liberals I enjoy being needled by him, but one thing I noticed is, no one on the left ever bothers to answer this guy. The regressives do the usual thing of smearing him with labels so they can ignore what he's saying, whereas the liberals are so busy being entertained by him that they don't bother to retort. But if we really want to present an alternative to the authoritarians, one of the things that we should be conducting is a dialogue, which means that we should meet arguments with counter-arguments. I think Milo deserves to be taken seriously, and his opinions have merit and should be argued against. So in this video, I'm going to sink my fangs into Milo Yiannopoulos. He'll probably enjoy it. I hope you do too. Now, of course, not everything Milo says should be taken seriously. A lot of it is meant to provoke and tease, and most of the time he's just trolling and taking the piss. But he is an intelligent guy, and occasionally he will make a serious and thought-provoking point. So let's give him the respect he deserves by telling him how wrong he is. Milo's most controversial opinion was presented in an article called Transgenderism is a Psychiatric Disorder, in which he essentially argues that gender dysphoria is an affliction that we should be curing, instead of encouraging the afflicted to go through gender reassignment. This was enough for the regressives to write him off as transphobic, and therefore someone they should try to censor. But I've read the article, and there is nothing phobic about it. The arguments he makes are all rational, and they did give me pause and caused me to reevaluate my position on the matter. I did not know that a large percentage of those who undergo sex change later suffer from depression, and if that is true, it is something that must be brought into consideration. Of course, you can disagree with Milo that the depression is caused by the change, and claim that it is rather caused by the intolerance transgenders encounter in society. But that requires more research, and meanwhile we must deal with the facts. It made me realize that we should be more vigilant about encouraging people to go through the process of gender reassignment, and be sure that they know of the consequences. In other words, Milo's argument helped me develop a more nuanced position, and that is why it's good to have someone like him around. Now, that is just one controversial position that Milo has, and if I try to counter all of them we would be here for hours. So I decided to limit myself and deal only with things he said in his 2 appearances on the Rubin Report. Dave Rubin, like myself, comes from the liberal leftist side of the map, and he claims that most of the left are like him, whereas the regressives are the minority. Milo, as we shall see, is having none of it.
I think most are.
I haven't seen much evidence of that in the last 10 years.
Well, it's only because we've been hijacked. I really am a firm. I mean, I see what's happening.
You haven't been hijacked. You see that. I have so many friends like this, and you're all idiots. It's very clear the movement has left you behind. There's no space for free speech on the left, and not just this bit of the left, most of the left. You are in a tiny slice on the left of people who still care about reason, rigour, fact, scrutiny, and free speech, and there is no place for you on the left anymore, so you need to come over and you need to just give in. Give in. I understand this.
I didn't know you were going to do the sell job today. You're doing the full sell job?
I understand this whole, I'm a liberal who believes in free speech thing is good marketing, but give it up.
I disagree. I believe that most leftists are liberals, but most of them just haven't woken up yet to what is going on. One thing setting liberals and regressives apart is that while liberals believe in equality of opportunity, regressives are demanding equality of outcome. In the past few decades, the main flag of the left was identity politics, because we have realized that there are certain groups that had lesser opportunities just because of their identity, and we fought to change that situation. As I argued in a previous video, This battle has achieved full victory, and by 2012 it became abundantly clear that identity no longer stands in your way to advance in society. Identity politics should have been ditched right there, but then they were hijacked by the regressive left that wants to keep them alive as long as we don't have equality of outcome. Most leftists, I believe in equality of opportunity and not equality of outcome, but they haven't realized yet that this is what identity politics have become, so they keep on fighting the old obsolete fights. Or, if they have realized it, many of them are just afraid to speak up. But now that we have created this new space, more and more will find the courage to speak up and become part of it. What we will find then, I am sure, is that these regressives are just a small noisy bunch of neurotics. Right now, though, the left is shit, and I agree with a lot of the things that Milo says about it. For instance, when he talks about it's turning its back on freedom of speech.
There's a weird definition of free speech that Jack Dorsey seems to have, the CEO of Twitter.
Yeah.
He seems to think that it's a sort of freedom from rather than freedom to. So free speech on Twitter means freedom from conservatives, freedom from different points of view.
That's good. I like that. It's very Nietzschean. I'll come back to this distinction between freedom from and freedom to later. My problem with Milo, however, is that I think he is taking his defense of freedom of speech a little bit too far.
The proper response to outrage culture is to be outrageous, right? I prefer to double down. If somebody says that they find something offensive, I will tell a joke twice as bad.
Yeah.
Because words don't hurt you.
This is where Milo is being too flippant. Because just saying words don't hurt you will not help us win the debate against the authoritarians. Words do hurt, and we should discuss the boundaries we should put on words that hurt people. Let's begin by stating that what matters is not the words, but the meaning behind them. I never understood this silly custom of saying the N-word when talking about the word nigger. All it does is make the word itself more powerful, and give it greater power to hurt. If you call me a kike, I will be offended, because that signifies to me that you hate me for being a Jew. But if you talk about the word kike, why the hell should I be offended? One of the dumbest things about PC culture is that it focuses on words instead of meanings. The second thing we should consider is who says these words. Really, you should only be hurt by words if they are said by someone that you have some sort of emotional connection with. If I care about you and you say something that offends me, and you refuse to apologize for it and take it back, I will be hurt, and it will have an immediate effect on our relationship. You can't just get out of it by saying words don't hurt you. And this emotional connection can be not just with people, but also with institutions. For instance, a lot of people love their country, and if an official representative of that country says something that offends them, it will justifiably have an effect on their feelings toward it. Just something for Milo's daddy to think about, if he wants to be a good president of the United States. On the other hand, if it is just some random dude on the internet saying offensive stuff, you should not be hurt. You should not feel bad because someone else is an idiot. If it does make you feel bad, then your skin is too thin, and you have to work on developing a thicker one. This is not just for your own sake, but also for the sake of society. An important value of a free society is tolerance, and if speech hurts you, that means that you are an intolerant and antisocial person. If someone says something that you find contemptible and outrageous, your emotional reaction should be contempt, not outrage. It is your obligation, as a member of a free society, to be able to tolerate listening to speech without being overcome by violent emotions. If you cannot, then it is your failure, and your problem. You don't get to demand to censor that speech. Some people have a different reaction to offensive speech. They feel like it is an attack on their identity, that it somehow invalidates who they are. Well, if that is your reaction, then you have a psychological problem. Your ego is too fragile, and you must work on strengthening it. If you are a transgendered person, then Milo's attack on the transgender concept should not matter to you. You are who you are, regardless of what this peroxide douchebag says about it. If it does make you insecure about yourself, that is a sign that you have an ego problem, and you must cure it. It will make you a stronger and happier person when you do. You should actually be thanking Milo for compelling you into this process. Milo is also very dismissive regarding trolls who tweet bigoted things just to annoy people, and mocks the media for taking them too seriously. I agree with him there, but again, he's taking his defense too far.
The second thing is, you say you're seeing all this stuff bubble up on social media. Well, let me take the ultimate example, what remains the big taboo in society, which is anti-Semitism, right? Most of the Generation Trump, the alt-right people, the people who like me, they're not anti-Semites. They don't care about Jews. They may have some assumptions about Jews. They may have some prejudice about Jews, like the Jews run everything. Well, we do. The Jews run all the banks. Well, we do. The Jews run the media. Well, we do. You know, I mean, they're right about all that stuff. Now, what you do with that is the issue. But the reason they go on about
I don't even know where to start with that, so just go.
We do. It's a fact. This is not in debate. It's a statistical fact. You know, Jews run most of the banks. Jews completely dominate the media, vastly disproportionately represented in all of these professions. That's just a fact. It's not anti-Semitic to point out statistics.
Oh, yes it is. At least the way you said it. Milo, you have to learn the difference between dominant and dominate. There's a gay joke in there, but I'll leave it to you to make it. It is true that the Jews are dominant in banking and media, and some other areas, but they don't dominate them. They do not have full control over these areas, which is what the anti-Semites are claiming. It's just the same as regressive feminists using the fact that men are still dominant in government and business to claim that there is a patriarchy that dominates society. We should not concede to them on this lie. Also, Milo, I see that you are utilizing your being half Jewish to relate yourself to our tribe. I believe I speak in the name of all Jews when I say that you don't get your full Jew credentials until you come here to Tel Aviv and do its club scene. Oh, and buy me a drink while you're at it. With shekels. Speaking of feminists, Milo's favorite topic, he says that
there is, of course, one great hope and a silver lining to all this, which is that feminism is collapsing in popularity among women. In just a few years, the number of American women who describe themselves as feminists has gone from 28 to 18%.
I've checked out these numbers. They come from 2 surveys done by 2 different polling firms, which is pretty much like comparing apples and oranges. It is too early to celebrate the fall of feminism. I've seen numbers that suggest that it is actually rising in popularity. This is one thing that we should remember about Milo. He has turned journalism into kind of a performance art, which is one of the things I find most interesting about him, but in the process he is also being quite loose with juggling facts for the sake of his performance, so you should always double-check everything he says. The same thing, by the way, also goes for that rag he's writing for. Alright, enough of feminism. Let's move to Milo's right-wing politics. Discussing Bernie Sanders, he says...
Is he a nice guy? No, he wants socialism in America.
No,
that's poisonous, ugly, oppressive political philosophy that has made people suffer everywhere it has ever been tried. Everywhere socialism has been implemented, it has made people suffer. Why do people think Bernie Sanders is nice?
If we are to have a dialogue, the right needs to stop portraying the economic debate as if the right wing stands for capitalism and the left stands for socialism. In reality, every Western economy today is a mix of capitalism and socialism, and the debate between left and right is only about what the right mix should be. No one in mainstream politics is proposing the kind of socialism that Milo talks about here. I intend to make a video someday and talk about what I think the right mix should be, but here I will just say this. Let me take you back to the distinction Milo made earlier between freedom from and freedom to. Now, I would argue that to be truly free, we need both freedoms. We need to have freedom from suffering and also freedom to pursue happiness. When it comes to pursuing happiness, it is different for every individual, and only the individual can know what makes them happy. When it comes to suffering, on the other hand, we are all pretty much alike and suffer from the same things, which means that there are people that know better than others how to protect us from it. For example, your doctor can't tell you what food to eat to make you feel good. That depends on your personal taste. But he does know better than you what kind of food will cause you health problems later, so you better listen to him on that. So when it comes to freedom from suffering, the state knows better than any of us, and has better means than any of us, to protect that freedom. When it comes to freedom to pursue happiness, the state knows nothing about what's good for me. My problem with authoritarians, on both the left and the right, is that they want the state to get involved in our freedom to pursue happiness. My problem with right-wing libertarians is that they want to place on the individual the responsibility to protect himself from suffering. That's all I'll say on the matter, for now. The last thing I want to comment about is Milo's claim that the liberals have destroyed gays. Take it away, Milo.
I think gay people getting married and in relationships is a shame, because I quite like the dissident, naughty sort of aspect of gay life, and I think that it's, you know, part of my gay privilege to be able to tumble out of a nightclub at 3 a.m. with, you know, sort of the doorman on my arm and, you know, hopped off my face. But
can't you do that while still having the other gays?
Because people like you,
please.
People like you getting married, getting a dog, living in a little house in
my dog.
You know, horrible. No self-respecting gay is home enough to feed something like that. You know, I mean, I don't know what you're doing with your time.
Really,
what do you do? Come home, come at 6 a.m. Darling, who's cooking tonight? Oh, shall I do? Oh, all right then.
Well, he cooks. He's a great chef.
Awful. awful.
Yeah, but do you
You shouldn't
really
be in your
think
house
that?
long enough
Do
to be able to
you
keep that
really-
alive.
But really, do you really believe that? I get it. I get what you're doing here on the snark level. I get it.
No,
It's fun.
I do think there's some value in this
Yeah.
because I think that as a homosexual, you should recognise that your evolutionary function is to experiment with different models of things, right? And one of the ways in which gay culture and society has done that is the sort of sex-mad hedonism that I enjoy. That I think I'm sorry that you don't have anymore because you have this horrible mutt to keep alive.
I see what the clubs
I think
are
gays
like.
have become
I know.
boring.
So
So I think gay people have become very, very dull.
But isn't
and
that
it's a shame.
Isn't that
No, it's not good because
the success of equality?
No. Why would we want to be equal? We're already superior.
There is a serious point there behind all the snark. Milo claims that by fighting to give homosexuals full rights, we have lost that dissident part of society, those wonderful gay dandies like Oscar Wilde and Noel Coward, who presented alternatives to the norm and challenged it. Liberals are guilty of domesticating gays and destroying this important radical element. But in all his nostalgia for that glorious gay past, Milo is forgetting that every generation had just one or two Oscar Wildes, while most of the gays were just as boring as they are today. The only difference is that back then they were boring inside the closet, and now they are boring in their family home. I don't see any essential difference in that respect. So really, to find out if liberalism has truly ruined camp, the only question we should ask ourselves is, are there still gays around who present an alternative? Does our generation have someone who is of that Oscar Wilde type? Do we have someone like that? Someone who is so fabulously flamboyant and narcissistic and witty and fiendish that no straight person can ever hope to reach his level of fabulousness. Does our culture have someone like that? No, can't think of anyone of that sort. Yes, Milo's right, after all.